Is this some kind of reverse psychology, is it?
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. reverse psychology. Suggestions that their coach manager would be his Scottish parlance, his Jacob would be on a sugarly nail, and he make the move from post.
Giving it the big build up and then changing your mind right there. That's what I love to hear. Hello and welcome to yet another edition of the Premier League predictions from the panel with myself, Matthew Christ, and four-time Premier League winner Brian McClair. And the games keep coming thick and fast, don't they, Brian? I mean, we're just on the back of a midweek raft of fixtures, and we're heading into another busy weekend of Premier League fixtures. But I thought I'd just take this opportunity to look back on some of the games we've seen in midweek. I mean, we saw a brilliant game between Forest and Liverpool, and then a really hard-fought North London derby on Wednesday night. Does this mean we've got a title race on our hands, do you think?
Yes, I do. I don't think you can ever say that the title's is over. I mean, I mentioned before that the teams that are around are there and thereabouts about Christmas time. In my experience, Manchester United, and most of the times that they went on to win the league, they were not actually in first place, but in contention, and became and went into the new year very strong. The kind of opposite seems to have happened to a couple of title challenges before Christmas. Liverpool have stuttered a little bit, drawing the last two games games in the Premier League. And you've got Forest, who were on a very good winning streak, who managed to get a good point against the team that are probably favourites to win the Premier League. And you've got City, who would have been hoping to make up some ground to throw away a 2-0 lead in their fixture. And you've also got other teams there. Newcastle are on an incredible run. You know, they were just before Christmas or early December, I think, that there was suggestions that their coach manager would be his in Scottish parlance, his Jacob would be on a sugarly nail, and he make the move from post. But now, I mean, that just shows you what football can be like. A few wins together that puts you not only higher up the table, but in contention for the Champions League.
Yeah, well, those midweek games are now in the bag, and just a matter of days later, we're back with week 22 of Premier League, and it starts Saturday, 12:30. It's Bournemouth making the long trip up to Newcastle for the early kickoff.
Yeah, well, Bournemouth extended their Premier League record to 9 unbeaten, and were seconds away at Stamford Bridge for moving up to 5th in the table to join their opponents in that particular game, and they lost the goal in the dying embers of the game. But I think they would be quite pleased to continue the run and to gather an away point. We've got another difficult fixture and a long trip, as you say. Newcastle have an opportunity to break a club record in all competitions after the win over Wolves. Was their 9th straight win. Alexander Isak recovered from injury to score twice in that game, and he may be actually eyeing Jamie Vardy's all-time Premier League record of scoring in 11 consecutive matches, considering the form he's in. I think Newcastle will score. Perhaps Alexander will get another one. Newcastle 3, Bournemouth 1.
Okay, that takes us nicely onto the 3 p.m. games, and it's on paper this one it looks pretty interesting. It's Brentford at home to Liverpool.
Well, yeah, Arne Slot is frustrated by Liverpool's slow and sloppy play in the first half at the City ground. However, although not at their very best, it took some defensive heroics from Nottingham Forest to stop them actually winning the game near the end. Liverpool created a number of chances, and the defenders and the goalkeeper were outstanding in that period of time. Thomas Frank very pleased as the team recovered from 2 goals down to the champion City at home to gain a point, with Brian Mobueno an outstanding performer in that particular game. I think Liverpool might sneak this though. Brentford 1, Liverpool 2.
Okay, and next up, Leicester versus Fulham.
Well, Fulham dominated the early stages of the derby game, another London derby at the London Stadium, but could manage to convert that possession into goals. Marco Silva is annoyed by his team's errors, fatal errors that led to goals, and a glaring miss in the final stages of the game. It could have maybe resulted in them getting a draw. Ruud van Nistelrooy, he's accrued 4 points from the last 24, 6 defeats on the bounce, conceding at least 2 in all of them and failing to score in 4. A difficult day, I think, for Leicester. However, I think they're going to get a positive result, but not a win. Leicester 2, Fulham 2.
Okay, and you mentioned the London derby there, and it wouldn't be a Premier League predictions without one, and it's West Ham Palace at 3 o'clock on Saturday.
Well, Palace's victory at the King Power Stadium has given them a reasonable gap away from the relegation zone now, 8 points. They've had 1 defeat in 10 now, Crystal Palace, 6 unbeaten on the road. That's their best away from home since 1992. And it's a first win for Graham Potter's side. He'd asked his team to be brave against Fulham, and I'd be very happy with the fact that they scored 3 goals from 4 shots. But their defensive record is the 4th worst in the Premier League, and that must be of some concern. Although historically, anybody my age and older will understand that the Hammers' philosophy has always been to score more goals than their opponents. West Ham 1, Palace 1.
Okay, well, we mentioned them at the top of the show. Arsenal flying after that North London derby win. They're in the 5:30 game against Aston Villa, who are finding a bit of form again.
Well, Villa managed to keep a clean sheet remarkably for the first time this season at Goodison the other evening, and break their away drought away from Villa Park. Villa came in away with 3 points and a 1-0 win. Arsenal were completely dominant, really, in almost all of the game in the North London derby against Spurs. Although very elated, as you could see with the picture on the television, Michael Arteta must be discomforted by the spun chances that his players are failing to convert. I mean, I was even getting nervous about it, and I'm not really of any particular interest in either team. In fact, I like Tottenham's manager Postecoglou. I think there'll be goals for either side, and it'll be another tight one, a frustrating one, I think, for Mikel. Arsenal 2, Villa 1.
Okay, well, that brings us to the half-time break. No injury time, so straight down the tunnel for me and Brian. We're going to have a quick drink and talk tactics, and we'll be right back after this quick break. Hello and welcome back to Premier League Predictions with myself, Matthew Christ, and Brian McClair, and we've reached Sunday's games in this week's raft of Premier League fixtures. And first up, it's a fascinating one, really. You've got David Moyes' Everton side at home to struggling Tottenham under Ange Postecoglou, who's really feeling the heat now, Brian, isn't he?
Well, there's only one game that Moyes has been in charge in as of yet. There is no bounce. Everton have had 1 win in 11, no goals in 9. Well, at least they registered some shots on target in the game the other night versus Villa. And they had a great opportunity in injury time to equalise. Spurs, as I mentioned, were completely dominated by Arsenal in the North London derby, but could have snatched a late point. Porro's effort hitting the post. I don't know what any of the chatter around Postecoglou is, but I have got the greatest amount of sympathy for him, considering the injury problems that Tottenham have had or have to carry. No doubt there was plenty of criticism for the FA Cup game, but a completely different team. His side performed pretty well at the Emirates, but couldn't manage to get a point. So there'll be very interesting to see how this one, and I do fancy Spurs to come out with a win, but Everton's got to score at some point, surely. Everton 1, Spurs 2.
Well, you're tipping against your favourites, Everton, and your old mate Moisey. Is this some kind of reverse psychology, is it?
Yeah, perhaps, yeah. reverse psychology.
Right, well, talking about old clubs, it's Manchester United at home to Brighton, and a Brighton team who contain a certain player who you love to talk about.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I will mention them actually. But it's this thing that you would, when you're looking up and searching for stuff, unless you are proper stato of either football club. Brighton have won the last 5 Premier League games against United, including the last 2 at Old Trafford. Last season, they won 3-1, and one of my favourite players, Danny Welbeck, was on target in that particular game. And he always seems to play well at Old Trafford against Manchester United, but he probably won't play due to a troublesome ankle problem. So I think that Manchester United will perhaps breathe a sigh of relief with that information, but the information could be wrong. United seem to have settled on the back 3, Amarim's particular style and way of playing, with De Ligt, Maguire and Martinez, I think, being pinnacle to their improving performances. Manchester United to get a victory against Brighton for the first time in a while, 3-1 to Manchester United.
Okay. Are you enjoying a little bit more of what you're seeing of United as time goes on after a bit of a rusty patch? I mean, the game at Anfield seems to have almost revitalised United, hasn't it?
Well, I can say, yeah, enjoying it better. Yes, there is certainly an amount of improvement, although there's a considerable way to go. I like the fact that I can understand why there's been chopping and changes in nearly every single one of Amarim's games, because he's tried, particularly in the back 3 or the back 5, whatever way you want to look at it, wing backs, centre back positions, and he seems to be having a view of what his best side is, depending on suspensions and injuries, and they are looking a little bit more positive and a little bit more confident.
Okay, next up, it's title chasing Forest, a team who you tipped for a top 4 place at least a few weeks ago, and they are home to Southampton. I think the big question in this game, Brian, is how many passes are Southampton going to have before their first shot?
I think that philosophy's completely changed now, isn't it? Because that was under the previous regime. Forest, yeah, you've got to say they keep impressing. Liverpool didn't register a single shot on target in the first half. And Chris Wood, their talisman striker, has scored his 13th goal of the season. There's no reason to suggest that he continues to score goals and the defence continue to be as resolute as they have been so far, that Forest won't be pushing for a place, certainly in Europe. And I think they'll be dreaming at the moment of Champions League, really. In the reverse fixture at St Mary's, Southampton had twice as much possession as Forest, and could only manage 1 shot at goal. I think they'll have at least 1 shot at goal at the City ground, because I've put them down to score a goal, but Forest to score 3.
Okay, 3-1 to Forest. That takes us on to the 4:30 game, and we were talking earlier on about the title race, and it shows how far City have fallen that I didn't even mention Manchester City in the contenders in that chat, but they go away to Ipswich on the back of another disappointing result in midweek. So how do you see this one?
Well, it depends on which way around you look at it. Perhaps some City fans would be saying that they've now gone 3 unbeaten with 2 wins and a draw, but they'd be very disappointed to let a 2-goal lead slip. Phil Foden scored twice and perhaps could have scored a hat-trick that would have put the game beyond any opportunities to score. 2 late goals. As I say, I think that Guardiola would be disappointed in the result, but pleased with the performance. And the last meeting between these sides at Portman Road was in May 2001. Ipswich won that game 2-1, and City got relegated.
Yeah, okay, well, let's make a note of that one, shall we?
However, Ipswich won, City 3.
Okay. Giving it the big build-up and then changing your mind right at the end. That's what I love to hear. Next up, and finally, it's a Monday night game, a game we all love. It's Chelsea at home to Wolves.
Well, Wolves have got the worst defensive record in the Premier League getting into this game, conceding 48 goals in 21 Premier League games. But amazingly, they've scored more than 4th place Nottingham Forest. And indeed, they've scored more than nearly all the teams round about them. But their defence is letting them down very much. Chelsea have got no wins in the Premier League in 2025. that Palmer-Jackson combination was fruitful again the other evening, with Jackson this time assisting for Palmer to score the opening goal. And it took a 95th minute from the returning Reece James to rescue a point for Chelsea. I think Maresca is concerned, but I don't see how Wolves can get any positive result out of this. But desperate measures, desperate times, you never know. I think Chelsea will sneak this one the way that both teams have been performing. Chelsea 2, Wolves 1.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of another Premier League prediction show. Don't forget to keep on top of Brian's predictions over the weekend. He predicted that incredible 2-2 at Anfield the other week. Goodness knows where he got that from. He hit the post in the London Derby the other night with his 2-1 prediction that could and should have come off. So keep up to date with Brian's picks. If you think you can do better, let us know in the comments section below, and we'll see you again next time.